This video is sponsored by Shortboxed, the easiest and safest way to buy and sell graded comic books. Visit them today using the link in the description. Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to count down the top 10 most submitted books into CBCS, and I can tell you already I've said something that is not 100% accurate, and I'll break it down in the video ahead. Now, I will tell you that this month's list is a little unusual, and I feel like I say that every single time I run down a list from CBCS, but they all look very different from one another. In this month's list, we actually have 5 books from the 80s, 4 books from the 90s, and 1 book from the 70s, along with some other strange stuff. Stay tuned. Number 10 on the list is Spawn issue number 1 from Todd McFarlane. This book was published by Image Comics in 1992. There are currently a total of 1,479 direct edition copies of this comic on the population report. The 30-day average value for this comic has declined to just $105 for a 9.8. And what's interesting is that I was at a con just recently and someone was selling this book for $250, as if we don't have access to pricing information. The number 10 book on the list, yes, I didn't make a mistake. There is another book that made the top 10. The reason being, 2 books received the exact same number of submissions in the month of April. So we have 2 number 10s. The second number 10 is Venom, Lethal Protector, issue number 1, published in 1993. There are currently 1,659 total graded copies of this book on the population report. According to GoCollect, the 30-day average value for a 9.8 copy of this comic is just $87, which is down $10 from the 90-day average at $97. Number 9 on the list is Edge of the Spider-Verse issue number 2, the first appearance of Gwen Stacy, aka Spider-Woman, who is set to appear with Miles Morales in Across the Spider-Verse in June. I think that this is the first time that I've ever seen this book actually make a list in the years that I've been doing this type of list. Presently, there are 968 total graded copies of this comic on the population report. The most recent value for a 9.8 blue label was $850, which is slightly up from the 90-day average of $809. Number 8 on the list is the first appearance of Venom, Amazing Spider-Man issue number 300. There are currently 1,213 total copies of this comic on the population report. According to GoCollect, there has not been a sale of a CBCS 9.8 of this comic since 2020, so I can't really provide any type of sales data. I should probably also mention that there are only 23 9.8s on the entire population report. Number 7 on the list is Spider-Man issue number 1, specifically the Silver Edition from 1990. There are currently 981 total copies of this comic on the population report, with the 9.8 having a pretty stable 30-day average value of $60. Number 6 on the list is New Mutants 98, the first appearance of Deadpool, published by Marvel Comics in 1991. The sales data for this book at a 9.8 is lacking. The most recent confirmed sale of a 9.8 was for $1,290 in January of 2023. Currently, there are 1,257 total graded direct edition copies of this comic on the population report, with 136 of them landing a 9.8. Number 5 on the list is Miracle Man issue number 1, published by Eclipse Comics in 1985. This is the very first time that we have seen a Miracle Man comic on a list in the years that I've been doing this. It is also the very first time that we have ever seen an Eclipse comic on the list. And to be honest with you, it's awesome to see the book not just on the list, but in the 5th spot as well. And I think potentially the reason why the book made the list is because of the renewed interest around Miracle Man. It seems that Neil Gaiman and also Mark Buckingham are working on Miracle Man Silver Age, which might be injecting some renewed interest into Miracle Man itself. Miracle Man #1 currently just has 159 copies on the population report. The 9.8 has a 90 and 30-day average value of just about $83. Number 4 on the list is Wolverine issue #1, the limited series from 1982. There are currently 993 total copies of this awesome comic on the population report. The 9.8 has a 90-day average value of $657, and there have been no sales in the last 30 days, so I can't provide recent sales data. Number 3 on the list is Secret Wars issue #1, the cameo appearance of the Beyonder. Currently, there are 665 total copies of this comic on the population report, with just 88 of them being a 9.8. Unfortunately, there have been no sales of a CBCS 9.8 this year, so I cannot provide any sales data. Number 2 on the list is another Secret Wars book. This one is Secret Wars issue #8, the origin of the black costume, which goes on to become Venom and begats Carnage and Null and a host of other symbiotes. Currently, there are 1,550 total copies of this comic on the population report, with 295 of them being a 9.8. The 9.8 has a somewhat stable value of $476 at both the 30 and 90-day mark. And the #1 book on the list is Star Wars issue #1, published in 1977. This is the very first time that I've ever seen the OG Star Wars book make the list, much less land in the top spot. There are currently 929 newsstand copies of this comic on the population report, with just 10 of them landing a 9.8. With that low a census count, I'm not surprised that there have not been any sales of this comic at a 9.8 in 2023. The last sale was on 8/2022 for $4,680. So as I mentioned at the top of the video, there is definitely some interesting stuff that is happening on this list. Every single month, it looks dramatically different from the previous month, and that is part of the excitement. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I definitely want to encourage you to give the video a thumbs up. If there is something that surprised you, I encourage you to leave those thoughts down in the comment section, and if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I want to invite you to do that now. Take care.
This thing on? Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yo, should you practice art, or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it. Not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, you know? The one that's gonna be a master, the one that's more than a rapper, the one that's an educator, the one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts, he's got the mindset expansive. He understands that it's time combined with travel and concepts makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan, straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms of pure souls having them conversations, synergy and combinations. You fly and we waiting, Indian style in the gold.